I bet you didn't know just how much it really cost to build America into the powerhouse it is today. America is now one of the richest and most powerful countries in the world, but getting there was far from straightforward. Have you ever wondered what it really cost to build this nation? Join me as we explore the true price of America's rise. The answer goes beyond dollars and cents. To understand America, we must look at both the celebrated gains and the hidden costs. Land was gained, wars were fought, and lives were changed forever. Join us as we explore the surprising history and the true price of a nation's rise. Our journey begins where the modern story of America does, with the arrival of European explorers on the shores of a so-called New World. We will sail alongside these early adventurers, driven by dreams of gold, the promise of new trade routes, and the ambition to claim vast lands for their kings and queens. But this was not an empty world. We will witness the first encounters between cultures, the complex and often tragic interactions between the newcomers and the millions of indigenous peoples who had inhabited these lands for centuries. This foundational period set the stage for everything that was to follow, establishing patterns of conflict, cooperation, and conquest. From these early encounters, we will move into the era of colonial settlement. We will watch as small, fragile outposts like Jamestown and Plymouth grow into thriving colonies along the Atlantic coast. Life was hard, a daily struggle for survival against the wilderness and the unknown. We will see the interactions with Native American tribes, which ranged from peaceful trade to brutal warfare. Meanwhile, other European powers, like France and Spain, were carving out their own vast claims across the continent, setting the stage for an inevitable clash of empires that would determine the future of North America and its people. The fight for control of the continent would erupt in the French and Indian War. We will explore this global conflict and its profound consequences. Britain's victory came at a tremendous financial cost, leading to a series of taxes imposed on the American colonies. These taxes, levied without representation, lit the spark of revolution. We will follow the rising tide of discontent, from symbolic protests to open rebellion, as colonists began to see themselves not as British subjects, but as something new, Americans. This was the crucible in which the identity of a new nation was forged, born from conflict and a burning desire for self-determination. This revolutionary spirit culminated in the War for Independence and the birth of the United States. We will stand with the patriots as they declare their freedom, and we will follow the armies through the hardships of war. But the story does not end with victory. We will then trace the nation's expansion, from the original 13 colonies to a continental empire. We will examine the Louisiana Purchase, the push westward, and the acquisitions of Florida, Texas, and Oregon. Each step of this expansion came with its own price, paid through treaties, conflicts, and the relentless displacement of those who stood in the path of manifest destiny. The story of modern America begins on the vast Atlantic Ocean, where European ambition, faith, and commerce collided. Driven by dreams of gold, spices, and new lands, explorers risked everything for glory and riches. New ships and navigation tools made these daring voyages possible, pushing the boundaries of the known world. This mix of greed and piety shaped every encounter, setting the stage for centuries of change in the Americas. When Columbus landed in the Caribbean in 1492, he found not an empty wilderness, but a vibrant world of millions. The Taíno greeted the newcomers, but curiosity soon gave way to violence and exploitation. The Europeans forced the natives into brutal labor and brought deadly diseases like smallpox. Up to 90% of indigenous people perished within decades. The land itself was transformed, forever changed by European arrival. Columbus's discovery sparked fierce rivalry between Spain and Portugal, leading them to divide the world with the Treaty of Tordesillas. Spain claimed most of the Americas, while Portugal took Brazil and trade routes to Asia. Indigenous peoples were never consulted. Their lands became spoils. Conquistadors conquered mighty empires, plundering gold and silver for Spain. The true cost? The destruction of entire civilizations. England sought its own place in the New World, first failing at Roanoke, then establishing Jamestown in 1607. Tobacco, not gold, saved the colony, but fueled expansion and conflict with native peoples. In 1620, pilgrims landed at Plymouth seeking religious freedom, surviving with Wampanoag help. Yet this fragile peace soon gave way to waves of settlement that displaced native communities. The American colonies developed into distinct societies: New England's tight-knit Puritan towns, the diverse middle colonies, and the plantation-driven South. New England thrived on fishing and trade, while the middle colonies became a melting pot of cultures and commerce. In the South, vast plantations relied on indentured servants and, tragically, enslaved Africans, creating wealth for a few and suffering for many. This legacy of inequality would shape America for generations. North America was a continent of competing empires. The English built 13 colonies along the Atlantic, but France claimed vast lands to the north and west, forging alliances with native tribes for the fur trade. Meanwhile, Spain expanded from Mexico and Florida, establishing missions and presidios. By the mid-1700s, these rival empires set the stage for a conflict that would shape the continent's future. Tensions between the British and French empires in North America erupted in the Ohio River Valley, a vital crossroads for trade and expansion. In 1754, young George Washington's mission to the French sparked a global conflict, the French and Indian War. Native American nations were deeply entangled, most siding with the French, while the Iroquois allied with the British. The tide turned when William Pitt sent more troops, leading to British victories at key forts and the fall of Quebec. The Treaty of Paris, in 1763, ended French power in North America, reshaping the continent forever. Britain's victory in North America came at a huge cost, doubling its debt. To pay for it, Parliament taxed the colonies, believing it was only fair. But colonists, with no voice in Parliament, cried, "No taxation without representation." Protests erupted, boycotts spread, and the conflict over rights set the stage for revolution. The Townshend Acts of 1767 reignited colonial anger, leading to boycotts and protests, especially in Boston. British troops occupied the city, escalating tensions until the Boston Massacre in 1770, where soldiers killed 5 colonists. Propaganda like Paul Revere's engraving inflamed public outrage, uniting colonists against British rule. The 1773 Tea Act led to the Boston Tea Party, a bold act of defiance as colonists dumped British tea into the harbor. Britain responded with the Intolerable Acts, punishing Massachusetts and pushing the colonies closer together. By 1775, the First Continental Congress had convened, and the first shots of the revolution were imminent. Independence brought a new challenge: self-government. The Articles of Confederation proved too weak, prompting the 1787 Constitutional Convention. The resulting constitution balanced power among 3 branches, but compromised on slavery, embedding it into the nation's foundation. Ratification was hard-won, but in 1789, George Washington became the first president, setting crucial precedents. His leadership stabilized the fragile republic, proving a government by the people could endure. The cost, difficult compromises, and the groundwork for future conflict. America's leaders looked west, envisioning a nation stretching to the Pacific. The 1803 Louisiana Purchase doubled the country's size, but ignored Native American rights, setting up decades of conflict. Lewis and Clark's expedition mapped the new territory, aided by Sacagawea, inspiring westward migration. Expansion brought clashes with Britain and Spain, leading to the War of 1812 and the acquisition of Florida. Each new territory fueled the dream of a coast-to-coast republic, often at the expense of those already living there. The nation's identity was now tied to relentless growth. By the 1840s, manifest destiny drove Americans west, believing expansion was their fate. Settlers poured into Texas, sparking revolution and, after annexation, war with Mexico. The Mexican-American War ended with the U.S. seizing vast territories, fulfilling continental ambitions. The cost: thousands of lives, dispossession of Native Americans, and reignited conflict over slavery. Every new state threatened the fragile balance between North and South. Expansion's triumph planted the seeds of the coming Civil War. New Western lands deepened the national crisis over slavery's expansion. The South saw slavery as essential. The North, increasingly opposed, feared its spread. Compromises like the Fugitive Slave Act and Kansas-Nebraska Act only heightened tensions, leading to violence in Bleeding Kansas. The Dred Scott decision denied citizenship to African Americans and opened all territories to slavery. Political and judicial failures left the nation polarized and unstable. As Lincoln warned, the House was truly dividing against itself. Lincoln's election in 1860 was the final straw for the South, leading to secession and the birth of the Confederacy. When Confederate forces fired on Fort Sumter, the Civil War began, brother against brother, a nation torn apart. In 1863, Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation transformed the war into a fight for freedom, paving the way for a new birth of liberty. The Civil War ended in 1865 with Lee's surrender to Grant. The Union was preserved and slavery abolished, but the South lay in ruins. Reconstruction began, aiming to reunite the nation and define freedom for nearly 4 million African Americans. But progress was met with fierce resistance, and by 1877, Reconstruction ended, leaving deep divisions and a legacy of injustice. By the late 1800s, America had finished its continental expansion and was booming industrially. With the frontier closed, the U.S. looked outward, seeking new markets and power. The Spanish-American War in 1898 marked a turning point. America defeated Spain and gained overseas territories. The U.S. became an imperial power, ruling millions abroad, sparking controversy and a costly war in the Philippines. President Theodore Roosevelt's big stick diplomacy meant using both negotiation and military power, especially in Latin America. His main goal: build a canal across Panama to connect the Atlantic and Pacific. When Colombia refused, Roosevelt backed Panama's independence, securing U.S. control of the canal zone. The Panama Canal was a triumph of engineering, but thousands of workers died, and America's reputation in Latin America suffered. While the drama of the Spanish-American War and the Panama Canal captured headlines, America's global footprint was expanding in other, quieter ways. Even before the war with Spain, the United States had set its sights on the strategic islands of Hawaii. American missionaries and sugar planters had established a powerful presence there throughout the 19th century, growing wealthy and influential. In 1893, these planters, with the backing of United States Marines, orchestrated a coup that overthrew the native Hawaiian monarch, Queen Liliuokalani. They established a new republic and immediately sought annexation by the United States to protect their economic interests. The initial annexation attempt was blocked by President Grover Cleveland, who viewed the overthrow of the monarchy as a shameful and illegal act. However, the strategic importance of the islands, particularly as a naval coaling station, became undeniable during the Spanish-American War. In 1898, as United States ships sailed toward the Philippines, Congress formally annexed Hawaii. The cost of this expansion was the loss of sovereignty for the native Hawaiian people. Their independent kingdom was absorbed into the United States against their will, a casualty of America's growing strategic and commercial ambitions in the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean. Another significant expansion of the American footprint had occurred decades earlier, though its value was not immediately understood. In 1867, Secretary of State William Seward negotiated the purchase of Alaska from Russia for the sum of $7.2 million. At the time, the deal was widely mocked by the American public and press, who derisively called it Seward's Folly or Seward's Icebox. They could not see any value in a remote, frozen wasteland. The cost seemed to be millions of dollars wasted on a barren territory, a rare misstep in the nation's otherwise relentless and successful expansion. History, however, would prove Seward's vision to be remarkably prescient. The purchase of Alaska added a territory more than twice the size of Texas to the United States, rich in natural resources like timber, fish, and minerals. The discovery of gold in the Klondike region in the late 1890s triggered a massive gold rush, and later, the discovery of immense oil reserves would make Alaska one of the most valuable pieces of real estate on the planet. The initial price was ridicule and a few $1,000,000, but the long-term gain was a massive store of natural wealth and a strategic foothold in the Arctic, proving that the American footprint was expanding in ways few could have imagined. America's history is a grand tapestry, woven with triumph and tragedy. Its rise brought liberty and progress, but also sacrifice and sorrow. The cost included the displacement of native nations and the scars of slavery. Acknowledging this full ledger gives us a deeper, truer understanding of America's story. Why look back at the painful parts of our history? The past dwells in us, shaping our laws, communities, and identities. Ignoring these costs is like navigating a river without knowing its currents. Honest reflection gives us tools for progress and the wisdom to avoid old mistakes. Learning this history is a lesson in empathy, connecting us to all who shaped America. By understanding our past, we're better prepared to write a brighter future for all. If you found this journey meaningful, don't forget to subscribe for more stories that shape our world.